Welcome to Impact Signals, social impact at the scale of AI. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Sarah.
It's Friday, March 27th, episode 42. We're closing the week with a governance milestone, a major funding pledge, the 1-year mark in Myanmar, and a project out of Texas that may be the most important AI equity story you'll hear this month. We start with the biggest governance development of the week. On Thursday, in Geneva, 3 organizations launched the Safe AI Framework, Standards and Assurance Framework for Ethical Artificial Intelligence. The organizations are the CDAC Network, the Turing Institute, and Humanitarian AI Advisory. Funding comes from the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office.
Safe AI is structured around 4 pillars: compliance and regulation, sector-specific guidelines adapted for the power imbalances of humanitarian contexts, technological assurance, practical tools to evaluate AI for fairness and reliability before deployment, not after harm occurs, community participation, a participatory playbook to ensure crisis-affected populations actually shape the systems designed for them, and humanitarian engagement, direct testing with frontline organizations in the field.
Helen McElhenney, CDAC Network's executive director, framed the stakes clearly. Over 300 million people worldwide need life-saving support this year. Resources are available for only about 100 million of them. AI could help close that gap, but only if it's deployed responsibly. Michael Talve from Humanitarian AI Advisory added that the Safe AI framework is designed as a step-by-step guide, not theoretical policy.
The timing matters. Technology companies have been rolling back ethical AI commitments under political pressure. Without a sector-specific standard like Safe AI, humanitarian organizations face a race to the bottom. Pressure to adopt AI fast without the governance to ensure it doesn't cause harm. The framework is available now at cdacnetwork.org.
The UN's Migration Agency is getting an AI upgrade. On March 27th, the International Organization for Migration announced a collaboration with Google Cloud and Geospatial Specialists NGIS to transform IOM's LOCALISE planning system.
LOCALISE is the tool IOM uses to coordinate resource distribution in the immediate aftermath of displacement events. The new version integrates AI and data analytics to synthesize demographic data, infrastructure damage assessments, and real-time mobility tracking, so field coordinators can forecast needs and pre-position resources before conditions deteriorate further.
To put that in practical terms, this year WFP used AI logistics tools to deliver immediate food assistance to more than 20,000 displaced families from the Afghanistan-Pakistan border crisis. LOCALISE brings that kind of capability to displacement-specific coordination. Organizations that rely on IOM for logistics support should request technical briefings as the new system rolls out.
Friday brings a moment for reflection. 1 year ago this month, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck central Myanmar. The IFRC's assessment this week is both a measure of progress and a warning.
The IFRC and Myanmar Red Cross Society have reached more than 213,000 people across 31 townships, supported by 32 national societies worldwide. IFRC head of delegation Nadia Khoury described communities showing remarkable strength and dignity, with local volunteers traveling from across the country to reach distant and hard-to-access areas.
But WFP's parallel assessment warns that new global shocks threaten to push survivors back into hunger. Ongoing conflict, economic deterioration, flooding, and extreme heat are compounding the recovery. The technology to anticipate these secondary shocks, predictive displacement analytics, AI-powered food security forecasting, exists and is deployable. UNHCR's Foresight System and WFP's Hunger Map Live are active. The constraint is access and funding, not capability.
Organizations with Myanmar programs should review their early warning integration and scenario planning against the specific second-order risks IFRC identifies: flooding from seasonal rains, heat stress, and continued conflict.
Now to a research story that connects directly to today's recovery theme, and one that applies far beyond its U.S. context. Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin unveiled a project called AI Squared, Ancestral Intelligence and Artificial Intelligence for Flood Mitigation.
The team, Assistant Professor Lydia Kano Pechadoman from the School of Architecture and Assistant Professor Chang Hoon Han from the Department of Astronomy, is redesigning AI flood evaluation tools specifically for American Indian and Alaska Native nations, supported by UT's Good Systems Initiative for Human-Centered AI.
The problem they've identified is structural. Native American lands are disproportionately vulnerable to flooding, made worse by extreme precipitation, dam decommissioning, and historical displacement to flood-prone areas. Yet only an estimated 7% of American Indian and Alaska Native nations participate in federal flood management programs. The reason? standardized federal predictive models simply cannot account for Indigenous priorities, Indigenous measures of effectiveness, or relational understandings of land and water.
Kano Picharaman's framing is important. What we don't measure in our models is rendered invisible and can lead to inappropriate decision-making. The AI Squared project adapts machine learning architectures to embed holistic, ecocentric, and Indigenous worldviews into the assessment of flood mitigation interventions. The team is also proposing changes to federal Indian law to anticipate the legal requirements of using these tools in governmental resilience planning.
And as we said, this applies globally. Communities in the Pacific Islands, Latin America, and Southeast Asia face the same exclusion from early warning systems built on Western meteorological assumptions. This is both a research contribution and a model for inclusive AI design that practitioners everywhere should be watching.
Friday brings a major funding announcement. On March 24th, OpenAI Foundation, the nonprofit that controls OpenAI, pledged $1 billion in grants over the next year. OpenAI Board Chair Brett Taylor. We aim to enable the use of AI to find solutions to humanity's hardest problems.
The grant priorities have direct humanitarian relevance, life science and health research, and mitigating the impacts of AI on jobs, the economy, and mental health, specifically mental health of children. The foundation is recruiting a new executive director to oversee grant-making. This follows an October 2025 commitment to spend $25 billion on similar causes. Now it has a concrete one-year timeline attached.
For organizations working at the intersection of AI and health, or building tools to protect vulnerable populations from AI harms, this is a grant pool to watch. The mental health focus aligns directly with WHO's new AI Mental Health Consortium, announced earlier this week, which identified crisis-affected and displaced populations as core at-risk groups.
And a research note for the end of the week. A new archive preprint introduces Zero Hunger AI, an NLP and machine learning framework for food security policy modeling in data-scarce environments. Tested across 25 districts on a 1,200 sample dataset, it achieves 91% classification accuracy with a demographic parity difference of only 3%.
What makes it relevant for practitioners? The system extracts policy intelligence from fragmented textual reports, the kind of documentation that dominates food security records in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, where structured datasets are thin. It outperforms classical machine learning models by 13 to 17%. Think of it as a complement to FuseNet, a way to derive actionable intelligence from the text-heavy reporting systems that already exist in governments and OCHA.
And a dispatch from South Asia. Assam, India's most flood-prone state, deployed agentic AI under its new State Data Policy 2026. The system provides real-time predictions of flooding impacts on specific infrastructure, bridges, evacuation routes, roads, emergency facilities. It replaces manual assessments that historically delayed emergency mobilization by hours.
What's significant is who deployed it: a state government, acting independently, without waiting for national frameworks or international mandates. That's the model other flood-prone states in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Indonesia should be watching.
Events for the coming week. RightsCon 2026 opens tomorrow, March 28th through 30th in Nairobi. The IAPP Global Privacy Summit follows April 1st through 3rd in Washington. Action on Disaster Relief is April 8th through 10th, also in Washington.
Active disaster monitoring. Kenya is simultaneously managing flood emergency and drought crisis. 3.7 million people are projected to face acute food insecurity between April and June. Lebanon's WHO Health Emergency Sitrep 13 was issued this week. South Sudan's OCHA flash update for Jonglei state conflict was published yesterday. Afghanistan's cross-border tension continues, with UNICEF's flash update issued on March 26th. The WHO issued its first global sitrep for Middle East escalation this week. That's Impact Signals for Friday, March 27th. If this briefing is useful, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out at impactsignals.ai and share it with someone working in the field.
Stay ready.